and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Back in the saddle is Brian Twining. Brian, we've been here, we've been there, we've been everywhere. Fantasy football and whatnot has derailed our shows, but we are back. We are back in full effect. We will have your twice a week shows. So appreciate everyone's patience. Brian Twining, how's it going?
It's going great, man. I am extremely excited for this Saturday night's race. I have to keep correcting myself. Prime time, Saturday night, last regular season race. Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr. on the bubble. There is going to be a ton going on at Daytona.
Yeah. Can you believe we're at the final race of the season? It's wild.
It's pretty incredible that we've gotten here.
So I guess with Saturday night, we are probably recording Friday and getting it out to the people on Saturday morning. Is that what I'm hearing?
We're going to have to. Yeah.
Okay.
It took me by surprise too, seeing that 7 p.m. start time going, all right, Sunday night. Oh crap. It's actually
Saturday night under the lights. You love to see it, but yes, that means Brian and I will record Friday. We will have it in your feed when you wake up on Saturday morning. We'll have your DFS coverage. We'll have your betting updates. We'll have all that going on. But before we dive into Daytona, let's take a little step back, head back to Watkins Glen. Let's look at our bets. Let's just talk about the race itself and kind of get into it. So here is our betting recap for the week. Smaller cards, but Brian, I think both of us trying not to be so aggressive on the betting cards has actually been a good thing, and it's helping keep us in the green, even on weeks where we don't necessarily have the week we were expecting. Kevin Harvick, probably should have listened to you. I feel like he was right there. He was like 11th or 12th, flirting with it most of the day. Couldn't get me that top 10, so obviously that crushed my week. But Chris Buescher, top 10, AJ Allmendinger, top 10, and Kevin Harvick over Ryan Blaney, which, considering where Harvick finished, the fact that he finished in front of Blaney is pretty crazy. So a little bit of a negative on the week, but not too bad. As I mentioned, Blaney did not beat Harvick, so he did not win. Truex did not win. Neither of those guys looked very good, and it's going to be interesting. We can obviously talk about Daytona and kind of what that may mean for those two guys. Chase Elliott looked really good all day, and honestly, Kyle Larson, it doesn't get on
that
the
was
inside.
So frustrating.
Elliott's probably your winner, but yeah, it was a weird decision by Elliott to choose the outside. He did it twice, and obviously, they're teammates, so whatever. But I don't think Larson did anything egregious or crazy. I just think he saw an opportunity, kind of bounced it, and Chase Elliott was bumped off just enough for Larson to get to the front and get back in victory lane.
Yeah, I mean, they looked like they had locked up their tires at the same exact time. It was just interesting that Larson was taking the corner at the exact angle that Elliott was when he was on the inside. So I definitely think that was a maneuver by him to try to keep Elliott, on the outside of him and impede him in some way. I mean, overall, though, the race is just interesting when you look at the finishing order. Only one Toyota finished inside the top 10 when Toyotas had been crushing at this track over the last couple of years. I mean, Christopher Bell, once again, proving that he's probably been the most consistent JGR driver this season. But yeah, like Truex, Blaney, they have put themselves in a precarious situation going into Daytona for the last regular season race.
Yep. So Eric Jones, top 10, Christopher Bell, top 10, and Bell over Briscoe, fading Chase Briscoe always seems to work out for the two of us. So love to see it. We will have to, now that the regular season is in the books, maybe we can do it sometime either next show or the when next, when we talk post. I guess we got to wait for the Daytona. So maybe next Wednesday we can go through our season long bets, tally those up, and see how we did. But overall, decent little week. Not terrible, not great. Our big bets for the top 10 did not come through, but that's okay. Since the All-Star race, we're still up. I'm up almost 6.25 units. You're up 10.25 units. Pretty solid. So obviously we have Daytona. We get wild this week. And then it's playoffs time, baby, and I'm very, very excited. We'll have to, take a look at the outright odds too to win the NASCAR championship. Obviously, Chase Elliott is your season-long champion, but the playoffs are here, and it's time to party. So let's close this. I'll move this over here, and we can dive into this week's odds, starting with the aforementioned Chase Elliott, who at 10-1, 11-1, depending on where you look, is your favorite. Ryan Blaney right behind him at 12. Denny Hamlin at 12. Kyle Larson at 12. Bubba Wallace at 12. What's your initial read, initial thoughts? Obviously, we're going to Daytona. Wild shit likes to happen. Do we want to get into the top of the board, or do we want to, roll down and see if we can't find some loose cannons?
I mean, anytime we're racing at these super speedways, you're just as likely to hit a winner by throwing a dart at the betting board as you are by doing a ton of research. With that said, however, for me, like, you really have to look at some of the scenarios coming into this race. For instance, Bubba Wallace has been absolutely crushing these super speedway races. He's finished runner up, I think, 2 consecutive times at Daytona. If he wins, I think he gets into the playoffs. So somebody like him, taking him at that 13-1 that you could get, I think makes sense. But the rest of the guys at the top of the board, like, I don't know how aggressive they're going to be outside of maybe Ryan Blaney, but even him, he only really has to finish ahead of Martin Truex Jr. and I believe Alex Bowman, essentially, to sneak into that 16th spot. So I don't know how aggressive he would be at the end of the race. So, like, going to the top of the board is really tricky this weekend, knowing it's the last regular season race. And for me, I would probably keep it pretty light and just go with Bubba, who has the most to gain with a win, and he needs a win to get in.
Yeah, I think Bubba might be my favorite of this group. As you mentioned, Chase, Denny, and Kyle are all in pretty comfortably. This track tends to get a little loose. I think Bubba is a guy who we've seen tremendous growth, not only on super speedways, but at several different kinds of tracks, shown up at road courses, and has had his moments. Obviously has shown up in Atlanta, especially under the new setup. So it's good to see. Obviously, second last time we were here, third at the end of stage 2. So really solid showing for him. But yeah, this is a track to get a little reckless on, and we can start with the next group with Joey Logano at another 12 or 13, who ran really well last time we were at Daytona. Obviously, it was March. It was the early spring. It was people were learning how to drive the cars, but ended up finishing 21st. But after stage 1 was 5th, after stage 2 was 2nd. Ran a really strong race. Just had an incident at the end that kind of knocked him back a little bit further than you'd like to see. He is somebody that's a little bit interesting to me. Our guy Ross Chastain has just been in the worst predicaments. Like, he continues to finish towards the back of the pack. He continues to have issues. I keeps getting priced up because of what his ceiling is, but my gosh, it has not been a pretty sight for him.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with Ross the Boss right now. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of praying he gets out of the first round of the playoffs, just with his current string of luck. Yeah. And then, like you said, Logano's done pretty well at these tracks. I mean, if you look back up near the top, Denny Hamlin is always really good at these super speedways, but there's not much for him to gain coming into this weekend. There's no need to risk a car or anything of that nature. And then, like, a guy like William Byron, who he's had speed at times this season, but I mean, like, What is he doing? I mean, I don't understand it. I've never seen, honestly, I don't know if I've seen somebody over the last like 2 or 3 years that I've really been paying attention to NASCAR that's been as boom or bust as him, considering he's either top 5 or pretty much nowhere near the top 10, which is kind of crazy to think.
Yeah. Continuing down, Kyle Busch has been a real buzzkill towards the end of the year, having his issues. Obviously, his contract situation being in limbo has kind of apparently affected him, or I don't know what's going on, but it hasn't been good. Your defending champ, Austin Cindric, at 15, you can get him as high as 20, which is a nice number at BetMGM. 18, 20 at Bet Rivers as well. So that's pretty decent number for a guy that showed up here last time. Martin Truex, a guy that needs to get in the playoffs, traditionally doesn't run well, but in the new car at this track last year was awesome. Do you have any interest in going there at 18-1?
No. I'll give you a simple answer with that. I don't trust Marty after I didn't party last weekend. I've gone to the well too many times with him. Yeah. And I just think like the new vehicle has definitely passed up his skills. Or maybe he's just not able to learn the car quick enough for this season. So yeah, I don't trust Truex to get to the front of the pack here.
Yep. I'm with you. Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez kind of round out your 20-1. Do you have any interest on that trio of drivers?
I mean, the Trackhouse cars early on in the season showed like top end speed. So I think Suarez is somebody to consider. I'd like to see that at a little bit of a longer shot odds, but like for him in the placement or the matchups and stuff, I like him maybe top 10, getting that kind of number. Anybody, I mean, again, Christopher Bell, 25-1. He's been as consistent as anybody in the Cup Series, finishing inside the top 10. And if you're in that position coming, last couple of laps at this track, anybody can win the race. So I think Bell makes sense at that number.
Yep. As we dip into the 25s, I'm with you. I think he makes some sense. Obviously, we've seen some nice form out of him. He's been really, really rock solid. And right behind him, your nemesis, qualified third, finished in the top 10, had a decent little run last time we were here, including second at the end of stage 1 and fourth at the end of stage 2.
No
one interest. Last run for Big Bad Brad.
No, absolutely not.
Chase Briscoe catching strays. Faden Briscoe is one of our favorite things to do here, so I doubt we'll be going there. But then we get into some fun. Eric Almirola always seems to run well here. Ran really well last time we were here. Catching a 30 on him is kind of interesting. Right behind him, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
I like Ricky Stenhouse. He had the second fastest green flag speed at the Daytona 500 this year, of course, prior to probably wrecking. And he's always a danger at these super speedways. I prefer that 30-1 number definitely on him. I mean, that just kind of, these odds definitely just show you like how certain guys are better at these super speedway tracks, as Kyle marks down Recce spinouts for an outright.
Recce spinouts is the first name on the betting card in the outright market.
Yeah, and like a guy like Stenhouse for me at this kind of race, he's somebody I'd rather wager top 5 or a win as opposed to a top 10, just because the top 10 number is going to be so short. He's the kind of person that will be the uber aggressive and push the issue on the last lap in particular.
Yep. Yeah, I think even top 3 or an outright, and just kind of avoid the
exactly
finishing position. Almirola top 5, top 10 makes a hell of a lot of sense. What about your boy Christopher Buescher?
I was just gonna say, honestly, at 35-1, I mean, I may even go a quarter unit on both Buescher and Eric Jones, because they've both shown top end speed at certain tracks this year. Buescher is a guy who's popped at super speedways. Eric Jones, we've gone to the well with him before. I'm pretty sure it was the Daytona 500 last year. We went with him to like top 5, and it was either him or Almirola that finished the race backwards.
It was Almirola, and he ended up getting me a third, and I ended up cashing that. So I was very happy
cashing
to
the
see
ticket. Like, and Jones was right there at the end. So I think that number is definitely exploitable, especially considering Jones, for instance, is 24-1 on FanDuel. So
yeah.
you got to take the value when you can get it.
Yeah, and Eric Jones is a guy that we've seen flash at Michigan, the 2-miler, at the Atlanta, the new super speedway-ish track. Obviously at Talladega, at Daytona. So yeah, I think he is somebody, especially if you can get 35 at DraftKings, at Bet Rivers. I think it makes sense. MGM points bet, I'm fine with 33. I'm not touching that 24, especially with
Absolutely not. No way.
out in the market, but I added him as well because I do think he can win. Plus, I'm just here for chaos. I'd like to see some random person win, and for some people to be on the outside, and then we'll obviously see Kurt Busch is inside the playoff, but we haven't seen him for a month and a half. So my guess is that his seat gets he basically doesn't race anymore, and someone else gets in the playoff. But at least for a moment, it'll be fun to see some mayhem. What about Michael McDowell at 40-1?
He is like my favorite value bet to win this race. Dude won the Daytona 500 last year. He has been racing incredibly well coming into this weekend. He's always done really well at super speedways, and in particular at Daytona. And 40-1 is actually longer than the odds that he won the 500 at last season. So I mean,
Yep.
I don't know why you wouldn't do some sort of like tiny bet on that.
Yeah. Obviously ran well last time we were here. Qualified 6th, finished 7th. Had a decent run. Obviously didn't finish, top 5, but that's okay. We can obviously look at top 5, top 10 bets on him. I think I will definitely be interested there. Same with Justin Haley. I think he is a placement bet, not a outright bet, but I think he is somebody that's interesting, especially if you want to get, if you can get to points bet and grab that 60, I think it's fine. He was the guy the last time we were here in March was the steam of the year, and he went from a guy that was at 55, 60, I think maybe even higher. It was by 30 by race time. So he is somebody that, especially if you're interested in Haley, I would get on earlier and be ready to go, because especially if he qualifies well, that number is gonna move.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that real fast too. Just knowing that guys that are up further towards the top of the board, like their odds are not going to change very much post qualifying, just because everyone knows at these super speedway tracks, like it really does not matter where you're starting the race at, because people are going to be shuffling throughout the field the entire day.
Yep. Corey LaJoie, once again, don't love him on outright, but my God, if we get some top 10 bets on him, I think I may be interested.
I will say, you might not have seen this, but there are some rumors. I don't know if this was a fake tweet, but Corey LaJoie supposedly on his Stacking Penny show came out and said that he's actually not going to race this week because it costs them the car basically costs like $350,000, and the team doesn't want to risk wrecking a vehicle during a race that they have no shot to get into the playoffs. So
yeah, no, that's 100% fair and makes a lot of sense. That's why, I can completely see that, and I think if he doesn't start, it doesn't really matter. But that's a good note and something I'll definitely be paying attention to. Gilliland is also somebody that I think I could find myself getting to. Once again, more of an outright or more of a win, placement top 10, top 5 kind of thing than actually winning the 500. But I mean, McDowell won, so things get wild. Let's look at the placement points and see if we can't find some interesting numbers. So let's go top 10 first. We'll start. Obviously, some of these numbers are going to be really interesting because we're going to be talking about elite drivers with tons of upside. And they're going to be priced like a super speedway. There's, they expect accidents. They expect, so, getting to a minus 200 might be a little a little dangerous. But if you find a Kyle Larson, a Bubba Wallace, a Ross Chastain that you feel really comfortable with, like minus 135 to top 10 for Bubba, that's a number I kind of like.
Well, I mean, just to put this into perspective, over at driver averages, when you look at the last, that's probably the last 14 or 13 or 14 races at super speedways, the most top 10s is 8 among drivers. So we're talking about barely over a 50% clip that these guys are finishing inside the top 10, which is just a great indicator as to how kind of up and down these finishing positions are at these tracks.
Yeah. Martin Truex minus 105, minus 110 is kind of fun. But once again, he's a guy that, like, we talked about it a little bit last week, but that could be a dangerous one where if he's really pushing and then all of a sudden there's the big one and he's out, that could really cost you.
Honestly, I feel like at like Daytona, I know a lot of people don't wager on outrights and all that stuff, which obviously that makes a lot of sense because you really don't know. But I almost feel the same about these top 10 numbers. I would prefer to just go to the bottom at like a Busher, or starting with anybody that has plus juice and wagering on them as opposed to laying, money and giving the books more on guys to top 10, knowing that everyone essentially has the same odds to top 10 here as long as they stay clean throughout the day.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I added my first top 10. It's going to be Eric Almirola at plus 130. I think it's a number that makes a hell of a lot of sense. I expect him to run well. I think kind of what you were talking about with LaJoy, where I don't know that he's necessarily going to press it super duper hard and kind of put himself in a bad situation where if he's running fourth or fifth, if he's running near the front of the pack, then obviously he'll go for the win. But if he can lock down a nice fourth or fifth, I think he'll be really fine with that. Stenhouse, we talked about. I think he's one to avoid here in the top 10. I think he's either top 5 or he's out. But that could be interesting. Eric Jones plus 160 to top 10. I'm going to add that one too.
So I added that. I added him and Busher because I think they're skilled enough to stay inside the top 10 without wrecking going for it at the end, as long as Brad Keselowski doesn't take out his teammate again like he did at the 500.
Yeah. These are also interesting names to get in on now because if they qualify well, those numbers will go from positive to negative real fast.
They would probably get closer to even or a little bit shorter for sure.
That's something to think about. Michael McDowell plus 210 to top 10.
Already added.
Perfect. Love to see it. I think our betting cards are going to be a little aggressive this week. So,
hey man, it's the last regular season race. Yeah. I got some. Just ignoring the first half of the season, I have some units to play with going into here. So
we finally dug ourselves out of the hole, and now we're gonna go right back in, baby. Let's go.
Let's have some fun, man. That's what this
Justin
is for.
Haley plus 210, Cole Custer plus 320.
Absolutely not. You know where I will go back to the board though? Harrison Burton plus 550.
That's a number.
He's been able to show a few things here or there. I mean, he's run into a lot of issues, but I do think that he's gotten better as the season's gone on, and he's kind of learned the vehicle at the same pace that everyone else has. And he's a good enough driver to potentially crack that mark.
Yep. And his price is affordable enough where you could bet less and still feel good about hitting that winner. Gilliland, I'm going to do the same thing there. Todd Gilly gang, 6 plus 650.
Any interest
Nope.
on our boy at the very bottom of the board, BJ McLeod, 20 to 1.
I'm surprised he's running in this, to be honest. He's going to be out there like having a lazy Sunday drive. I mean, honestly, the number's nice.
I feel like he's like forced to be out there because he has, I don't know if they're still sponsoring his car, but Motorsports Games, who is continuing to flounder as a video game producer for consoles. Maybe this is their last ditch effort to gain some exposure.
Yeah, anytime you can have the guy in the very back of the race not being on TV, you gotta sponsor that dude. I mean, fun number if you want to get in. I think my cutoff is at Gilliland. These numbers are fun, but
Well, what's interesting to note though is like even though those odds are pretty long, it it's not it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities that those guys both finish top 10.
Yeah.
Gilliland, even Gragson, Dillon, Hemrick, Burton, all
Yeah.
those guys could finish top 10. We've seen some crazy stuff this season.
100%. Let's go top 5. Let's see what DraftKings has for us there. PointsBet has some numbers too, so that'll be fun. Let me know if something Bubba Wallace plus 220. Truex 3-1. It's interesting to see Truex priced up here, but with his outright
Yeah.
with his placement odds are actually lower. Your boy Christopher Bell plus 350. Eric Jones 5-1 to top 5.
Woo!
I did top 5. I did top 10. I did the outright, so I might as well thread the needle and see what I can get cooking here. If Eric Jones wins this race, I'm going to have all the green in my account. It's going to be lovely.
What's interesting with that is that's way more than double his top 10 odds.
Yep.
Which honestly, a guy like him is just as likely to top 5 as he is the top 10.
Yeah. Austin Dillon 3.5 to 1 to top 5. I think is kind of interesting. Stenhouse 3.5. I'd much rather jump in there. Christopher Buescher 4-1.
Michael McDowell 7 to 1. Wow. All right, I'm gonna get a little action on that. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that just tells you they think he's gonna plus 210 to top 10, but half of that 7-1. That's spicy. Get Haley at 7-1 is interesting. Harrison Burton at 14. Yeah,
I don't know if I could get to those guys for a top 5. I know
too far.
Haley,
Haley
there's
is
been
probably,
some crazy stuff, but
yeah, McDowell or Haley, I could talk myself into. Especially like if these guys qualify decently, these will be like 3.5 to 1.
what's in honestly though, that's the thing about those guys, like the back markers, for instance, like a Harrison Burton. I don't think he's gonna qualify
No.
inside like the top 20. Even McDowell, for instance, I don't know if he's had this like the straight line speed at these bigger tracks, but in traffic, he's just a really skilled like drafter. And I think that's where his skills like really shine at these tracks, which is why I like him at these bigger numbers.
You can get your boy Denny against your nemesis Joey Logano at minus 114.
No, I'm betting Bubba over Logano at minus 110.
Okay. I like it. Keselowski and Harvick. Denny plus 105 versus Elliott. I like also.
Oh, I'm taking that.
Big fan of finding two drivers that you think are even enough. If the odds are plus a bunch for one and minus a bunch for the other, just take the plus money at a track where wild shit happens and cars end up upside down or all four wheels off the track or who knows. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch. Looking for here Truex over Blaney plus 120. It's tempting. Eric Jones, Eric Almirola. See, in this scenario, I think Almirola should be your favorite. I just trust him to finish like 11th better more. And I think that's why that's priced accordingly. But Eric Jones plus 105 is kind of fun.
I actually added that. By the way.
I think it's a good bet, to be honest. Not a lot of head-to-heads, which I'm kind of surprised about. Let's go over here just to make sure we're not missing any. Jones over Almirola. Bowman over Suarez. Yeah, I think Truex over Blaney and Hamlin over Elliott are probably the ones that make the most sense.
Yeah, the Hamlin one is extremely interesting to me, considering Hamlin is one of the best super speedway racers that we have in the Cup Series. I know he hasn't been the greatest in the new car, but you cannot discount how good he's been.
Yeah. So I'm adding Truex Jr. over Blaney and Hamlin over Elliott just because of those numbers. And I could come back on when we talk again on Saturday, and those odds could be flipped, and we could look to sort of middle it. Busch over Larson, I'm kind of good. I think that's good, Brian. Is there anything else you want to look at before we give the people a little recap and let them know our best bet as we sit here on Wednesday?
Well, like I said, I really don't think the odds are gonna be moving very much post qualifying. So this is kind of where we're gonna be at. I did want to take a look at these props that you're in right now, like
Yeah.
top car, for instance. It to me, betting Eric Jones top Chevrolet at 18-1. I mean, if you told me that you could get that odds in this race where there's so much uncertainty, I'm gonna bet that. Like
You know
that
what I'm
doesn't
going to
make
do? I know I put Eric Jones top 5. I'm going to go Eric Jones top Chevy instead.
yeah, you're getting
I'm getting
way
because
better
he could
odds.
get top 6, but be the top Chevy, and then I'm getting 18. Or if he's top 3, then I'm still getting 18. Yeah, he be the second Chevy and still get top 5, sure. But I will take that gamble, and see if I can't hit me a winner, because I think that number makes sense. I think Austin Dillon at 15 makes a little bit of sense. Stenhouse, once again, I'm just going to bet the outright instead of the 13. Yeah, I think that's right. Top Ford. Anything jumping out to you?
I mean, going back to the guys that Busher and McDowell at 12 or
Yeah.
14-1. Again, like if you told me that you're going to be betting them top 5 or even top 10, there's definitely a distinct possibility that everyone else in front of them crashes out. And honestly, the one you just circled, that's probably the best value you're going to get, even outside of the Eric Jones one, because Christopher Bell has been incredible.
Yep. Top Toyota plus 650. That is also going on the card. I just, yeah, if I want a piece of Bell, I think this is a good way to get it. I actually don't mind Bubba at plus 350 either, but my guess is that he's probably somewhere in the top 5 if that's the case. But yeah, I think this is the good way to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that for a small play, just considering I have him on an outright, so
Yep.
it would make sense.
I feel like to win the poll is always a little bit of a crapshoot, but there are some fun numbers. Like Bubba at 8-1 to win the poll is fun. I could see him running really, really fast. Stenhouse 25-1. Keep your car on the track. Finish
Bell at
one lap.
20-1.
Yeah, I think he could get on the pole. Eric Jones 35-1.
Eric Jones 35 to
Adding
1.
that.
Ooh.
Eric Jones is gonna crush our souls. Eric Jones 35-1. McDowell. Justin Haley at 50. Ty Gibbs at 40. I think those are kind of interesting.
Just for reference, at the 500 this year, it was Larson, Bowman, Keselowski, Busher, Cindric, McDowell, Blaney, Burton, Briscoe, Kyle Busch for the top 10 on the starting grid.
Okay. That's useful. Thank you for that. Bowman at that's why these guys are priced up here. Bubba at 10, Bowman at 10, or 8 and 10 rather. Kyle Busch at 15.
Let me look that over again. So, like, if you're Busher 35-1, I'm gonna add that.
Do it.
Let's just have our souls crushed early.
I mean, if we're gonna crush our souls, we need to do it the right way. And I'm adding Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to
No.
to hit that pole, baby. 25. This is like betting first round leaders in golf. Are you going to hit all of them? No. But is it going to be fun? At least for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. At least for a little bit.
At least for a little while. All right, Brian. Let's recap where we're at. Let's give the people a best bet and let's get out of here. As a reminder, we will be back in your feed Saturday morning. DFS picks, best bets, update everything beyond the poll. Hopefully, we'll have a winner or two on that on Saturday. Obviously, we'll have the Saturday night race. We'll be back after the race on Wednesday to recap it all down. If you are new to the show, appreciate you checking us out. Please consider subscribing. We're at 450. We're working towards 500. Mash the thumbs up, all that stuff. I haven't mentioned that in a while, but if you can do that, we would be greatly appreciated. So let's run it down. Recce spinouts, 30-1 to win the race at a half a unit. Eric Jones at 35-1 to win the race. We're going to go Almirola top 10. We're going to go Eric Jones top 10. We're going to go Michael McDowell top 10. We're going to go Harrison Burton top 10 and the Gilly Gang top 10 this week. I'm going Eric Jones top Chevy at 18-1. I'm going Hamlin over Elliott, Truex over Blaney, Christopher Bell as your top Toyota. Speaking of Christopher Bell, that mini helmet will be getting sent out to our winner. I got your address. Appreciate you sending that over. I will be firing that off probably on Friday. And hopefully by the time we record next week, it will be in your hands. Thanks again to everybody who entered. We really appreciate everybody who subscribed and has enjoyed the show. Eric Jones and Ricky Stenhouse are my pole setter bets. Brian Twining, give me your bets and then hit me with your best bet.
All right. So yeah, for my outrights, far too invested clearly, but it's the last regular season race. So let's do it. Bubba Wallace, 12-1. He's got to win Daytona. He's been too damn good here. Christopher Bell, I like him. He's been the best Toyota lately. Eric Jones and Chris Buescher and Michael McDowell, three of my favorite drivers coming into this weekend. On that with a Buescher top 10, an Eric Jones top 10, a Michael McDowell top 10, and then going to a Harrison Burton top 10, which I have to add T10 there. Michael McDowell top 5. I think he's been so good coming into this race that he has the potential to do what he did at the 500 at the beginning of last season. Matchups wise, I got to go Bubba over Logano. I absolutely detest the number 22. Denny over Elliott at plus money is too good to pass up. Eric Jones over Almirola, plus money, too good to pass up. Eric Jones top Chevy at 18-1 is ridiculous odds. Christopher Bell top Toyota, who's been the best Toyota consistently wise this season at 6.5-1. That makes too much sense. And then my pole sitter, Chris Buescher at 35-1 for a quarter unit.
Love it. Love it. With all that being said, what is your best bet as we sit here on a Wednesday for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona?
Well, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. We started this season. One of my first ever NASCAR sponsored apparel was a 2311 hat in support of Bubba Wallace. So I'm going to go Bubba over Joey Logano, a full 5-unit play. I think Wallace is destined to potentially win this and sneak into the playoffs.
I thought you were going to go with the outright there, and I was like, my God, that is spicy. I respect it. I like where your head's at. I kind of want to go head to head with you on that bet, but I also like Bubba a lot this week, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go a little less spicy, but I'm going Almirola to top 10 at plus 130. It may not look great, even like 95% of the race. He may be like 13th, and you're like, why did I bet this?
He could get there on the last lap.
He'll find a way to sneak in. So I'm going to go plus 130. I'm going to go for 3 units. As we sit here on a Wednesday, we will be back in your feed Saturday morning with more best bets, DraftKings picks, and DraftKings for Daytona is just the best. So I'm very excited about that. Brian, I'm excited to lock in. I'm excited to be back. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you on Saturday and get ready to enjoy Daytona. We'll talk to you next time.